The air inside the cave was bone-dry, cold, and heavy with silence. Not natural silence, forced, trembling silence. The kind that came before a kill. Raza Khan crouched low behind a jagged wall of limestone, his breast shallow, ears straining for movement. The earth above had been quiet for weeks. Too quiet. A low hum vibrated through the rock. Subtle. Mechanical. Not wind. Not water. He tightened his grip on the M308 rifle, its matte black surface worn smooth from years of use. Old school. Analog. Reliable. It didn't care for ion storms or EMP fields. It just fired. The hum grew louder, closer. "They're here," he murmured. From a dark tunnel to his right, a shadow approached. Soft footfalls. Not boots, pads. That distinct four-legged scuttle of a Tsongrix scout unit. Raza slid a single armor-piercing round into the chamber. No sound. Smooth. He leveled the rifle. The creature slinked into view, its elongated limbs crawling sideways like a predator crab. Yellow biolights pulsed along its armored spine. It paused, sensing. Its head twitched left, then right. The moment its gaze swung past Raza, he fired. The crack of the bullet echoed like thunder in the chamber. The creature collapsed mid-scan, a slug buried between its ocular plates. No shriek. Just the thud of dead weight against stone. Raza was already moving. He snatched the creature's comms unit, useless for humans, but valuable for bait. Blood, dark and viscous, smeared the cave floor. He dragged the corpse into a narrow crevice and vanished back into the tunnel maze. He spoke into his earpiece. "Scout drone down. They've breached Sector 3. A hiss of static, then a voice replied, young, nervous. "Sector 3? That's deep. Thought they didn't know the way in." "They know now." The voice belonged to Idris, a fresh recruit barely past 20. Kid had guts, but he wasn't ready. None of them were. Not for this. "Stay in the lower hollow," Raza said. "Don't move unless I say so." "What if they reach?" "They won't." He killed the feed and ducked into a side passage. The light here was faint, fed by bioluminescent moss veins lining the walls. Earth's last war had shattered satellites, grid lines, whole nations, but caves survived. These ones, ancient and labyrinthine, had become tombs and training grounds both. Another vibration. He froze. This time it wasn't a scout. It was heavier, slower boots. Multiple. The rhythm was precise. Military cadence. Tsongrix foot soldiers. Plasma rifles, kinetic shields, hive implants. They didn't sneak. They marched. Raza adjusted the sling on his rifle and dropped low, disappearing behind a fallen stalactite. He watched shadows stretch along the corridor wall, growing taller. "They smell us," he whispered. And they did. Tsongrix warriors had thermal sniffers wired into their sinuses. Human sweat lit them up like flares. The first soldier entered, massive, black armor gleaming faintly. 4 more followed, weapons drawn, scanning the tight space with infrared lenses. One of them spoke, voice grating and slow. "He is here. The legendary cave dweller. The last one." Another answered. "Kill orders from Krivox?" "No. The High Commander wants him breathing." Raza smirked. "Good luck with that." He hurled the scout's comm device down the tunnel behind them. The clatter bounced off the walls, a sharp metal echo. All 5 turned. In that breathless instant, Raza sprang forward, blade drawn. The first soldier turned too late. Steel pierced under his jaw, severing the breathing tube. Blood sprayed. Raza grabbed the corpse as a shield just as plasma bolts erupted from the others. Searing heat struck the body, but he was already rolling away, tossing a rusted frag mine against the wall. It exploded in a wave of concussive force and dust. Screams filled the tunnel. Raza didn't stay to admire his work. He ran. Every turn he took was etched into memory. He'd lived down here for years, mapped it, bled in it, survived what others couldn't. The Tsongrix were tech giants. But they had no soul for Earth. They couldn't feel it breathe, He reached a small alcove carved into a ledge above a lower shaft and waited motionless. Below, a soldier stumbled through the smoke, half his armor melted, dragging his weapon. Another followed, limping. Raza whispered, "Two more." He drew the last of his old earth-made frag darts and launched it downward. Boom! The cave shook. Rock collapsed onto them. Silence returned. "Idris," he whispered again. "Yes, Commander?" "Mark today's date. First contact confirmed. Krivox is coming." The young man's voice cracked. "That's bad, right?" Raza looked at the shattered tunnel below. Rubble, blood, pieces of alien metal scattered like bones. "No," he said. "That's the fun part." The echo of the explosion still hummed through Raza's ears long after the dust had settled. He crouched in the narrow corridor leading to the lower catacombs, hands steady, but heart hammering like a warning drum. The dead Tsongrix patrol behind him was in victory. It was a message. They were sending more. He pressed his palm to a stone plate on the wall. A hidden switch clicked. A segment of rock creaked inward, revealing a low-crawl tunnel lined with ancient wiring and fractured insulation. He crawled inside, dragging his rifle behind him, then sealed the passage behind him with a dull scrape of stone on stone. He emerged into a forgotten chamber. Low ceiling, dim light, shelves carved into the rock stacked with dust-covered crates and relics of old Earth. The armory. He didn't come here often. A single photograph rested in a rusted frame on the wall, him in uniform, his wife beside him, their infant daughter cradled between them. They were smiling. That day, a month before the first orbital strike, was the last time he had known peace. He touched the photo, briefly. "I haven't forgotten," he said quietly. A soft scuff echoed behind him. He turned, rifle raised. Idris stood at the threshold, breath shallow, eyes wide. "I followed the signal trail. You told me not to move, but you disobeyed. I thought you were hit." Raza lowered the weapon. "You're lucky I didn't shoot you." The kid stepped inside, eyes scanning the room. "This place, it's like a museum. It was a supply outpost during the first counteroffensive. Then a grave. Now it's mine." Idris walked over to a wooden crate, flipped it open. Inside lay rows of glinting bullets, old but preserved. "Are these? .50 cal, armor-piercing. Forged during the Alaskan siege. Why didn't we use them before?" "Because they're not for grunts," Raza said. "They're for warlords." He loaded fresh rounds into his M308 with practiced hands, the clicks sharp and clean. Idris watched silently, but his expression twisted with unease. "They're getting closer," the boy said. "And stronger." "They're not gods," Raza replied. "No, but they've got tech that bends physics. I saw one take a full pulse round to the chest and walk through it like water. That's why we aim where it matters. Joints. Eyes. Gaps in the seal." Idris nodded slowly, uncertain. "Have you faced Krivox before?" "Not directly. But I've seen what he leaves behind." A memory surfaced. Half a rebel platoon fused to a steel wall by energy grenades. Bones fused with armor. The survivors didn't scream. They couldn't. Their lungs were ash. "I heard he was a gladiator before he was a commander," Idris said, trying to fill the silence. "Executed prisoners for sport. He's coming for that again," Raza said. "Except this time, he wants it recorded. For the Dominion. And you plan to stop him, with bullets? With strategy. With this cave. With fear." He grabbed a second rifle and tossed it to Idris. "Time you learn to set traps." The two moved deeper into the catacombs. The passage narrowed, floors slick with damp mineral runoff. Raza pointed out crossfire points, fallback positions, hidden compartments. Idris soaked it in. At the hollow mouth of an old shaft, they stopped. Raza peeled back a tarp revealing metallic canisters wired to a pressure plate. "Claymores," he said. "Older than you. Still bite harder than a Tsongrix plasma blade." Idris crouched to examine the wiring. "They've got aerial drones." Thermal eyes. Then we give them heat. He reached into a satchel and pulled out a handful of heated gel packs wrapped in thermal cloth. Bait. Place them far left. Makes it look like we're hiding there. Idris took them, nodding. The two split, working in silence. When they met again, Raza glanced at the boy's sweat-lined face and asked, "You afraid?" "Only of failing," Idris said. "Dying I can handle. But losing this place, losing what's left." Raza gave a dry chuckle. "You sound like I did at your age." He paused, staring down the tunnel. His voice dropped. "Before they bombed Islamabad, I thought I had time to train, time to prepare, time to protect. I was wrong. No one's going to give us time now. We take it. Inch by inch. Then let's take it." Raza looked at him. Not a soldier yet. But getting there. They returned to the armory, sealing off the passage behind them. Raza checked the long-range scanner cobbled from an old weather array. The blip pattern was changing, tightening. "They're closing in." Idris swallowed. "Krivox?" Raza stared at the center of the display where one crimson dot pulsed like a heartbeat. "No," he said. "His shadow." Raza moved through the tunnel like a wraith, rifle slung across his chest, fingers brushing stone for guidance. The deeper sections of the cave were colder, denser, lightless chambers where echoes turned into whispers and shadows thickened like smoke. Here, the convicts' advanced optics often faltered, confused by humidity and minerals. But Raza didn't rely on sight. He felt the cave. Behind him, Idris followed quietly, boots muffled in damp dust. The kid had learned to move quieter now. Raza approved, but said nothing. They reached a chasm, narrow, deep, a vertical death trap. Raza knelt and tapped a steel pin into a crevice, tying off a worn climbing rope. "No lights," he said. "Got it." They descended in silence. At the bottom, the air was heavier, almost wet. Decades-old mining equipment lay rusting against walls carved by water and time. Raza led the way into a service corridor, then paused, raising a hand. Metal crunched ahead. A scraping sound. Something large was dragging its limbs. He held up 2 fingers. Idris froze. A Tsomrix juggernaut stalked the passage, 8 feet tall, muscle-bound beneath flexible armor, dragging a scanning lance that flickered with electricity. Its breathing was mechanical, unnatural. Raza stepped back, gestured silently, and ducked into a side shaft. The juggernaut passed inches from them, unaware. Idris whispered, "That thing, how do we even kill it?" "You don't," Raza said. "You outsmart it." He reached into his pack and pulled out a noise lure, a small tin sphere with magnetic claps. He tossed it to the far end of the shaft. It clanged against rock, rolled, then began emitting irregular, rhythmic taps, like footsteps. The juggernaut turned, scanning. When it followed the noise, Raza moved. They doubled back into the main tunnel, headed for the blast chamber. It was a natural bottleneck, wide enough for one, surrounded by higher ledges. Perfect for a trap. Raza began planting charges, salvaged, mismatched, wired to pressure plates and infrared triggers. Idris laid suppressor mines on the flank in case flyer drones arrived. "Why do you think Krivox wants you alive?" Idris asked without looking up. "Symbolism. He wants to parade a broken human on Dominion channels. He's not going to get that." "No," Raza said. "He's going to get something else." Footsteps echoed again, this time lighter, more numerous. Raza peered down the shaft. 5 Tsomrix commandos, smaller than the juggernaut but faster, agile, sleek. They moved in perfect formation, scanning as they went. Raza raised his rifle, adjusted the scope. He waited until the first one hit the claymore tripwire. The explosion wasn't just loud, it was disorienting. Dust. Smoke. Screams. Raza fired once. Then again. 2 commandos dropped, their suits punctured. The rest ducked, returning fire. Plasma bolts scorched the air. Raza rolled to the other side of the ledge, drew his sidearm, and fired twice. One bolt ricocheted, Another grazed his shoulder. Pain flared, but he stayed focused. Idris tossed a flash round. Blinding white. The Tsonriks hesitated. Raza dropped down, landed behind them, and drove his blade into the nearest one's neck. He grabbed the corpse and used it as cover while gunning down the last. Silence fell again. He breathed hard, the wound on his shoulder searing. Idris rushed to his side, checked the burn. "You need a med kit," Idris said. "Later. They'll send more." "Let them come," Idris muttered, reloading. Raza gave him a sharp look. "No. That's how you die." Idris stiffened. "You don't wait for the enemy to drown you," Raza said. "You pick them off before the tide comes." He reached into a long crate tucked into the corner. Inside, 3 pristine M308 mags loaded with custom rounds, black-tipped, reinforced armor-piercing. "You saving those?" Idris asked. Raza locked one into his rifle with a hard click. "I was." They pushed deeper into the underground. The final section, the bone chamber, was near. A cavern filled with the remains of old battles. Human bones, alien plating, shattered weapons. Here, the ground had absorbed so much death it felt sacred. They set up positions fast. Elevated sniper posts. Sensor wires. Decoy heat packs shaped like human bodies. By the time they finished, the scanner buzzed. Krivox's personal guard was descending. 3 elite warborn. Modified. Genetically superior. No emotion. No fear. Tasked only with delivering targets alive. Raza lay prone behind stone cover, eye to the scope. Idris knelt below with a launcher trained on the only entrance. The first warborn stepped into view, head scanning, cloak shifting colors like liquid chrome. Raza squeezed the trigger. The round struck center mass. It staggered but didn't fall. "Armor held," Idris said, voice tight. "Next shot won't." The second round hit under the chin. Flesh tore. The creature dropped. The other 2 leapt forward. Idris fired the launcher. It missed but forced them to scatter. One landed behind Raza's position. The other charged Idris. Raza spun, parried a blade slash with the stock of his rifle, then slammed the barrel into the creature's gut and pulled the trigger. Point blank. Blood. Screech. Collapse. He turned, saw Idris on his back, weapon knocked aside, the final warborn raising a blade. Raza moved before he thought. One shot. The round tore through the warborn's shoulder and out its spine. It dropped, spasming. Raza stood over it. Watched it twitch. Then silence. Idris stood slowly. "That all of them?" "For now." They checked ammo, wounds, and sensors. Far above, a new signal blinked on the scanner, strong, steady, rhythmic. No confusion in its pace. Raza stared at the red dot pulsing slowly. Idris looked at him. "That's him, isn't it?" Raza nodded once. "Krivox has entered the cave." The ground vibrated in slow, deliberate pulses. Each footstep was a declaration, measured, confident, unhurried. Krivox had arrived. Raza crouched behind a ridge of fractured stone, heart steady, mind sharp. He watched the scanner's red dot grow closer, unwavering. This wasn't like the others. No scouts. No squads. Krivox came alone. "Why is he walking in without backup?" Idris whispered. "Because he doesn't need any," Raza said. "He thinks this is over." He looked over their position, sniper nest above, claymores wired to deadman triggers, flanking choke points rigged with spikes and fire traps. It wasn't foolproof. But it was something. Raza checked his rifle. Full mag armor piercing. No room for mistakes. Idris adjusted the trigger on a side trap, sweat glistening on his brow. "What if this isn't enough?" "It won't be," Raza said. "We just have to make it count anyway." Krivox stepped into the chamber, a monolith in living armor. His suit shimmered, obsidian plates with crimson light coursing beneath, like veins pumping molten metal. He carried no visible weapon. His voice echoed off the stone, smooth and deep. "So, You are the cave beast they all whisper about. Raza didn't respond. I expected more. Blood. Screaming. But here you are, crouching behind rocks, playing with traps like a rodent. Rodents live, Raza said calmly. Overconfident warlords don't. Krivox smiled. It was slight, but there. He raised his hand, and the suit adjusted, hissing, tightening around him. Spikes folded outward from the shoulders. A sharp blade extended from the wrist. His other hand ignited, plasma forming a fist. You've killed my men! Burned them! Humiliated them! You sent invaders, Raza said. They got what they deserved. Krivox stepped forward. The floor crackled beneath him. Raza triggered the first mine. The explosion rocked the chamber, smoke clouding the space. Rocks collapsed from above. Shards of fire burst outward. Krivox strode through it. His armor had taken the brunt. Dense burns, but he kept walking. Raza fired. The first shot struck Krivox's shoulder. It staggered him. The second hit his chest, cracked the plating but didn't penetrate. Krivox stopped and turned slowly toward the ridge. You brought old bullets to fight a god, he said. I brought the right bullets, Raza muttered. He fired again, aiming for the joint. The round slammed into Krivox's knee. This time, the warlord flinched, dropping briefly to one leg. Raza sprinted to the left flank. Krivox surged upward and charged. He moved like a machine, fast, brutal, direct. Idris activated a fire trap. Flames burst from the walls, searing across the floor. Krivox ran through it, cloak ablaze but armor unharmed. He grabbed a ledge and flung a chunk of rock toward the sniper nest. It smashed into the wall, shattering it. Idris scrambled out just in time. Move! Raza shouted. We draw him in. Choke point. They led him deeper into the narrow path. Raza fired over his shoulder, one shot striking the side of Krivox's helmet. A fracture spidered across the visor. Krivox's voice growled through the smoke. You irritate me, human! Good. At the choke point, Raza stopped. Idris was waiting, wounded, bleeding from a gash on his arm. Get behind the barrier, Raza ordered. What about? Do it! Idris nodded and ducked behind cover. Krivox appeared moments later, slower now. His gait had a limp. The molten light in his armor flickered. Raza stepped forward. I've seen your kind before, Krivox said. Desperate. Dying. Thinking courage is enough. It's not courage, Raza replied. It's hate. Yours was bred in labs. Mine was carved from loss. He fired 3 times in rapid succession. The final shot shattered Krivox's left gauntlet. The warlord roared and lunged. Raza dropped, rolled beneath the strike, and kicked upward. Krivox stumbled. Raza grabbed a short blade from his belt and drove it into the exposed joint near the armpit. Krivox howled and swung wildly. The blade missed by inches. Raza ducked, dove, and rolled beside Idris. He's hurt, Idris said. But he's still moving. Raza shoved a final magazine into his rifle. Time to end it. Krivox advanced, slower but relentless. Raza stepped out and shouted. You wanted a prize? Come get it. Krivox raised both arms and charged. Raza dropped to one knee, aimed dead center at the crack in the chest plate, and fired. The armor split. The second shot passed through. The third exploded inside. Krivox staggered. A shocked breath escaped him. Then he collapsed, metal groaning, light inside the suit dying like a broken engine. Raza approached cautiously. The warlord looked up, eyes dim, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. You were never supposed to win. I didn't, Raza said. I just didn't lose. He raised the rifle once more and fired the last round. Krivox's body fell limp. Silence returned. Idris emerged slowly, shaking. You did it! Raza looked at the body, then past it. No, he said. We did. The chamber was quiet now. Not peaceful, never that, but quiet. The kind that settled over battlegrounds after the blood cooled. Krivox's body lay still, the once glowing armor cracked like an egg, inner circuits dark, the imposing frame now just weight and dead steel. Raza stood over it, the M308 heavy in his hands. The barrel steamed. His last shot had torn through the Warlord's core, ripping apart whatever alien mechanism kept him breathing. Idris approached slowly, limping. His face was pale but focused. "Signal's still active," he said, voice low. "Something's broadcasting." Raza knelt beside the corpse. Embedded on the Warlord's shoulder was a pulsing blue node, round, sleek, and blinking in slow intervals. He'd seen it before. "Live feed," Raza said. "This was never just a hunt. They were streaming it. Back to the Dominion?" He nodded. "To every outpost, garrison, and fleet watching. They wanted a trophy, a humiliation. Instead, they watched their commander die." Raza ripped the node from the armor. Sparks flew. He held it up, face grim. "We make sure they understand exactly what happened here." He handed the node to Idris. "Patch it into the old transmitter. Run it through the fallback antenna. There's a relay above the flooded shaft. It'll still reach orbit." "What do I say?" Raza looked back at Krivox's corpse. "Tell them Earth is not finished. That their strongest fell, and a human, just one, ended him with bullets and blood." Idris hesitated, then nodded and took off. Raza took a long breath. His shoulder throbbed from the burn. His knee ached. But he remained standing. The cave was still. But he knew what came next. That Somrix wouldn't let this stand. He turned to the remains of the war-born elite, limbs scattered, suits torn, blood burned into the stone. The traps had done their job, but the fight ahead would be different. Bigger. He moved through the chamber, collecting anything still usable. A working shock baton, a pouch of power cells, a half-melted visor. He set everything on a table and began piecing them together, turning scraps into weapons, ruins into defenses. Every war started small. Idris returned, panting. "Transmissions out?" "I didn't just say what happened. I showed them. Full footage. Your voice. Your shots. His death." Raza looked at him. "And? They'll come. I'm counting on it." He handed Idris one of the hybrid blades he'd reforged from a warborn's wrist spike and a broken machete. Crude. Sharp. Effective. "You're ready?" Idris swallowed hard, then nodded. "If this is the last stand, I want to be part of it." "It's not," Raza said. "It's the first." They moved deeper into the bunker. Raza triggered a hidden panel. Inside was the fallback command room, still powered by geothermal lines from the abandoned mine's core. Dust clung to every surface, but screens flickered to life. Multiple red lights blinked. Idris frowned. "What are those?" "Somrix movement signatures. Ships rerouting. They're regrouping." Raza tapped a few keys, zoomed in on one node. A Dominion destroyer. Then another. 10 in total. "They're not retreating," Idris said. "No. But they're not charging either," Raza replied. "They're watching. Recalculating. For the first time in years, they're uncertain." He sat slowly. His body ached from days without rest, but his eyes burned with purpose. A different kind of fire now. One that spread. They saw Krivox fall. "That image, me standing over him, it'll fester. It'll grow." "You think others will rise?" Idris asked. "I know they will. Soldiers. Survivors. Farmers with rusted rifles. People who thought no one was left to fight." Raza turned, looked at the boy, no longer afraid, no longer just a scout. "They'll see you too. A kid with a blade standing beside me. That's how resistance is born." Outside, the cave pulsed with distant energy. Static crawled along the rock walls. The enemy wasn't far, but they weren't advancing. Not yet. Raza loaded a fresh mag into a secondary rifle, then slid it across the table to Idris. "You get one shot," he said. "Make it count." Idris grinned. I learned from the best. Raza checked the feed. All cameras operational. All traps reset. He looked at the last message on the transmitter log, sent moments ago, before the final signal went dark. Earth does not kneel. Not today. Not ever. He smiled. No gods, he whispered. Only men. And bullets.